Here's a fun fact. When I requested a Sony 1AM Mark II, my Sony rep actually told me as a note at the end of the mail that he hopes that I will finally like these a lot more than I did, or maybe rather not like so much their wireless series, and I can tell him already he can be relieved. I do. I mean, it's still not quite what I want personally for my headphone, but at least quality-wise now, all is good. So let's get into it, check what we get in terms of packaging. Obviously the headphones as always, then one cable and actually another one, also 1.2 meters long, really nice quality, but I'll get into that in a second, with unbalanced and obviously also a nice carrying pouch. Even though it won't protect it much, at least it's there and it's something. Now getting back to the cable, I have to say I really like the quality because it does not tangle up at all. It feels very soft, very flexible, good quality. Here on this end, actually one version with the remote and obviously the port, so we can replace the cable very easily because this does not seem to be any proprietary thing, and the normal 90-degree cable. So all is good in that regard. So what about the design of the headphone? As you can see, quite minimalistic, actually quite nice and subtle. Also with one thing that is obvious, a very narrow ear cup, but I will get into that a little bit later. Let's check the headband first, and as you can see, the only thing that I found to be a little bit weird is how you can actually flex it this way, which is something that I usually don't see so much. It doesn't feel cheap because it doesn't creak really anything at all. As you can see, also rotatable cups. And everything works out quite good. And what I actually like is the padding, and especially the depth, but it is a little bit bouncy. So if this would be a little bit more like it is like super soft memory foam here on the ear cup, this would have maybe been even better. Other than that, obviously you can change the size and it stays like that, so you shouldn't be worried. But I would wish for a little bit more click, maybe a little bit more resistance for maybe something that you didn't want to change. But usually it happens quite okay. And then as you can see, left and right indicators. Nothing really much else to say. Good plastic build, it doesn't feel super premium, but all of this plastic actually makes this headphone one thing, very lightweight, because it almost feels like nothing. Super nice here. And also very nice is the ear cup in terms of quality, because this super nice leather, and I'm not quite sure if this is real leather or not, it doesn't really matter to me because it feels so good. And as you can see, very slow memory foam. It's also thick enough, but maybe the best part is how extremely crazy soft it is here on the side, where it looks a little bit crinkled. But one thing that you maybe already have seen, the ear cup cutout seems very small, and at first when I put them actually on, I thought this is not even an over ear, it's more like an on ear. But the kind of trick is here that you have a lot of space below that here, and this is very soft and it just goes around your ear. Now if that is something that you like, you have to try maybe out first, because when I put them on the first moment I thought, oh no, these are over ears. But if you just pull them a little bit back and then kind of get around your ear with the soft part, then they are around, and then you have enough space actually also inside, because there is a little bit of an angle here and there is no weird thing sticking out like on some other Sony headphones. So you actually have a lot of wiggle room, and even bigger ears should fit in, but you have to know for yourself if you are okay with it being more around your ear, like over your ear instead of that. So that's a little bit something different, because it feels a little bit weird, something touching your ear all the way, because I personally don't like it so much. I can get used to it, but it's definitely not my preferred choice, so you have to just know that about yourself. But like I said, the weight is amazing. You pretty much don't feel it at all. Also, since it's so lightweight, it doesn't need a lot of clamping force, and it does not have that, at least not more than it needs to, and it feels super solid because, as you can see, very secure. Also looks quite elegant. So actually real nice comfort. The only thing that I've mentioned, if you have maybe the headband set a little bit shorter, then due to this thing being almost a little bit too bouncy, it kind of snaps always back into its position. So what I had to do is just make it a little bit kind of more on the longer side, so it has a lot of space. And then this is the thing that you don't even notice. So good comfort. Now about the heat and so on, even though it's actually already super warm and I'm already sweating quite a lot here in the summer, these pads, even though it's a closed system and it's a leather ear cup, actually for some reason allow for quite some breathing. Yes, your ears get warm and they will sweat a little bit, but while having them on and using them, I actually did not feel so much of it. Maybe it's because of the weight, maybe it's because of the moderate clamping force, so all is good here. Now, isolation is actually solid since it's a closed headphone with leather ear cups that seal around very well. I hear myself noticeably more muffled, but still good enough so I can talk, for example, with a headset, which we also have on the remote. So good, all good. What is also really good actually is how easy it is to drive this, because you can drive this even from a phone and not even a special phone with a special headphone jack. A decent headphone jack will be already enough to drive them well. loud enough with good quality. Obviously, if you have something better like a headphone amp, you can get a little bit more out of it because after all, it has some potential. But the pairing with everything what I used it for, it sounded already really nice. So super easy. You can pretty much use them with everything else. So what about the sound now? And I've already mentioned it a little bit earlier on. It's not quite what I personally like in terms of sound signature, but I'm not here to judge the sound signature. I'm trying to explain it to you so you can judge it if it's maybe the right one for you. Because what a signature is still a lot like Sony usually does, so overemphasizing bass a little bit, also though pushing this time, which is super nice though, the highs. So we have a V-shape, an obvious one. But the good thing here is even though we have this V-shape, it's not an extreme one because the bass, I have to say, is pronounced. And the bass itself in terms of quality is noticeably tighter than on some of the wireless headphones. It's not extremely tight, it's not dry, but it's on the warmer, I would say a little bit more, not really maybe boomier side, but definitely warm and full. So it does a good job here. Obviously, once you notice, for example, if you go a little bit higher in terms of, especially since it doesn't go all that deep, you notice that a little bit control is missing. But for this price range and everything else, it actually makes a solid job. There are maybe some with a tighter bass, but since this is overemphasized still a little bit, but not pretty much bleeding into the mids, they made a really nice job here. The mids, I also have to say, don't suffer with the V-shape because the highs, that is something that I applaud them for, especially compared to the wireless headphones, which was my biggest gripe. They're kind of dull, boring, lifeless highs. Is not a thing here because the highs absolutely not sibilant and absolutely great for long-term listening. Absolutely no problems at all. Deliver enough details, enough clarity for a good experience with the mids not being recessed so much that you would actually lose something in terms of vocals and so on. So they didn't feel too kind of, so nice actual balance. Now, what are they best working with? I would actually say this is a quite nice mainstream, I would say fun sounded headphone that does everything actually quite good all-rounder because it has enough extra bass, even though it's maybe not the tightest, extremist bass for EDM, but it still doesn't have too much bass or maybe too little control, so something like metal wouldn't work or even classical music, and especially female vocals with a nice soundstage work out quite good, which is actually something that I want to mention here. This is a closed headphone, and usually Sony headphones, especially the closed wireless ones, tend to have a very small claustrophobic soundstage, which is finally not a thing here. It's still not the biggest one, and since we have this V-shape with a little bit more of a warm and kind of dark soundstage, it feels still a little bit on the smaller side of a really open one. But it sounds really good. Imaging is also quite solid. So overall, they did a nice job in terms of balancing things out, but still kind of maintaining their signature that they are known for. So it's a fun sounded headphone. It makes a nice job for all of that if you are into that. But at the end, let's talk about recommendation because the price, I'm not quite sure about the US price. I couldn't find it on Amazon, but in Europe it's around 200, 250 euros depending on which color you get because there is black and there is silver. I can't compare them with the Sony A1, unfortunately, because they don't have that anymore. They are kind of run out, so I couldn't get a review on it to compare them side by side because those are noticeably cheaper, like half the price by now, and they could by now offer the still better value because I cannot say how much they have improved. If the 1A sound anything like these, or at least close, just go for the cheaper one. If you want a little bit something more, because I'm not quite sure about maybe a replaceable cable or anything else, but they do a really nice job. But now I have to also just talk a little bit from experience. Is it what I would recommend for a price of around 250? And I have to say, when it comes to closed, one of my favorites is still the Yamaha MT5, even though mine still does this little bit of thing with the ear cup, because there is still a little more clarity, and if you're looking for something a little bit more neutral, even though it's also a little bit on the fun sounded way, it's a little bit wider, the soundstage is a little bit clearer, a little more airy if you like that. Obviously the comfort is something different because I wasn't the biggest fan of that one either back then, just because there were a few things that I didn't like, the hard ear pads, but it allows for even more so breathing space, and at the end I think even though it's maybe not quite as comfortable, it's a little bit more comfortable on the longer term, and I personally just prefer that soundstage, and this one at around $100 also is noticeably cheaper, also with a replaceable cable and a solid build quality. So this is still my recommendation for about pretty much everything under $200 or euros. And this one at the moment I think is a little bit too expensive for something that is new out there, which I don't think is so much better than the 1A. So maybe wait a little bit because usually prices drop. And once this is like under 200 and you want something super lightweight, comfortable on the go that is super easy to drive with a nice fun sounded sound system, and you like Sony's sound signature, then yes. If you're looking for neutrality, clarity, super airy, wide sound systems and so on, maybe not quite so much, but not everyone likes what I like, so I like them for what they are, for what they do, and even for a more than I usually like fun sounded stage, this is something really nice. But also now you have to consider already at this price things like the Meze 99 Classics or the Neos, which also offer very nice fun sound, even though it's also not quite so much my cup of tea, because those are even more so heavily fun sounded. So I hope this is good enough. If you have any further questions, just leave them down below, and otherwise I wish you a nice day. Until next time, bye.